While the 2022-2023 football season officially ends today on Super Bowl Sunday, for many sports betting fans, college hoops in February and March is one of the most exciting times in sports. Whether you love college hoops or just want to pad your bankroll heading into March Madness, we have the perfect special. Starting today, get the rest of February with any WagerTalk or Sports Memo handicapper for only $149 each. So to finish off February for as little as $9 per day, head over to your favorite WagerTalk and or Sports Memo handicappers page and grab this limited time offer. This offer includes not only college basketball, but also any NBA, NHL, UFC, soccer, golf, and NASCAR that your favorite WagerTalk and or Sports Memo expert handicaps. No coupon is needed. The earlier you sign up, the more days you get.
Welcome into the NBA Tip-Off Show here at WagerTalk TV. I'm Megan Payton. Joined alongside me, I've got some of the best handicappers in the business, 3 panel members to go on these 3 games left before the NBA All-Star break. We've got Dwayne Bryant, Tony Mejia, Ronald Kabang here to break it all down. Thank you all for joining us here on Thursday. 3 games left on the slate before the big break. Before we get into these games, I want to go around the horn, hear what everyone has up either at Sports Memo or at WagerTalk. Dwayne Bryant, let's start with you. What do you have going on over at WagerTalk.com?
Well, I don't have anything in the NBA yet. I doubt I will. I do have 2 plays in college basketball. I gave them both out on the college basketball show about 2 hours ago. One of them is free on my page at dbbets.com right now, so check that out. I do have my eye on a 5% college basketball max bet for tomorrow. If the line comes out where I think it will, I will be dropping the hammer on that game. So make sure you check out my page either later tonight or early tomorrow morning. Also, don't forget to take advantage of that rest of February special deal that's going on at WagerTalk and Sports Memo. You can get all our plays in NBA and college basketball and any other sports that your capper covers. And it's only about $11 a day for the rest of this month. Me personally, I'm on a 10-3, 77% run in the NBA. My college basketball clients have pocketed over $5,000 over the last 2.5 months. That's based on $100 per unit. The average play is 3 units. So take advantage of the rest of that February special over there at dbbets.com.
Great call pointing that out. February bets, db.com. Tony Mejia, how are you this week, and what do you have going on at WagerTalk?
Well, what's up, Megan? Things are okay. I am actually treading very lightly this week. I mentioned off air, this is like my least favorite week because everybody's looking forward to the All-Star break. And, college basketball should have some stuff up this weekend for sure. But again, I tread lightly this week, too, because you never know. These are kids, what's going on in their personal lives with Valentine's Day and all of that. So I actually have passed on the last couple of days. I'm passing today. Tomorrow we'll get back up to normal because I'm pretty sure that Friday, Saturday, Sunday will be back on the normal routine. But the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday part of it after Super Bowl, especially, no thanks for me. And then again, Super Bowl was okay. Great game, terrible finish. How about that?
Yeah, I said this on Monday on the NBA Tip-Off Show. This week feels like the week before spring break when you were a kid, and it's just hard to focus on anything because it's right around the corner. Once spring break's over, you get back into the routine and things, and we can start looking at this from a more traditional way. Ronald Kabang, how are you? Awesome stuff at Sports Memo. Let us know what you've got going on right now.
Yeah, I have a few plays in the NBA so far up on sportsmemo.com. I also posted my MMA UFC bets for this weekend as well. Over at sportsmemo.com, I'm actually number 1 in profit, including all sports. So I do college basketball, NBA, UFC, and soccer. So that that deal that Dwayne mentioned about the rest of February for all access is a really good deal to do right now, especially over at Sports Memo and Wager Talk for those who do multiple sports. So I mean, yesterday down day, but overall really great to start off this 2023 calendar year. Like I mentioned, number one overall at sportsmemo.com since the beginning of the year. So just want to bounce back off of yesterday's down day and continue going in the right direction.
Well, we're going to do this show a little bit different because there's only 3 games on the slate. We're not going to have a contrarian play or an overtime. We're going to break down all 3 games. We're still going to do a best bet section at the end, hear what the panel has, what they're looking at on these 3 games. Reminder, though, it is right before the All-Star break. These have been hard to handicap just because you don't know the minds that the players are in. You don't know how many people are going to be playing. We're filming this right now at 3:25 p.m. Central. We still don't have full lineups, so expect things to change a bit. But let's break in our first game of the night. That is the Milwaukee Bucks at Chicago Bulls. Tip off at 7:30 p.m. Eastern. Bucks are a 7.5-point favorite, and the total's at 229. The storyline here is that the Bulls are in desperation mode as they sit 11th in the East, 5 straight losses, and the Bucks are red hot, 11 straight wins. They're second in the East, just a couple games behind Boston. Ronald, I'll start with you. If you want to bet Bucks money line, it's minus 330. How do we get value on these two teams in this game in particular?
Yeah, I mean, today, right now, looking at both of these teams here, they're both coming off bad travel situations. The Bucks, they've been on the road for 3 games, then they were at home. Now they're on the road again today against the Bulls. The Bulls' second leg of back-to-back road to home games, so playing back-to-back with travel as well. From an injury perspective, DeRozan is now out as of 2 hours ago for the Bulls, so he's going to be missing. But Middleton is out for the Bucks here. I know the Bulls have won and covered both matchups so far this season. I think Middleton actually missed both of those games. Drew missed the most recent one as well. The way that I'm actually looking at this is a really ugly way to look at it, but I do like the Bulls here plus the points. I know they gave up that tough big lead yesterday against the Pacers. They ended up losing that one outright. Mentally, everyone thinks that they're not in it right now, but a lot of the trends and angles that I'm looking at really pointing in the direction of the Bulls here. 8-5 straight up. Oh, sorry, 8-5 against the spread versus teams that they already beat so far in this season. They held their opponents under their team total in 11 of those 13 games. If you include that they're the dog in that situation, they're 6-0 against the spread in that spot, only allowing 112.7 points per game. Another thing to look at as well, they do well against conference opponents so far this season, especially when they're the dog. 14-6, 14-6-2 against the spread. In those 22 games, the Bulls have lost by 8 or more points by only 5 times. And so the line today, I think right now it was at 8.5. Now it's at back down to 7.5. So to me, in this situation here, the Bucks maybe lose the game, but they're not losing by margin based on some of the trends that I'm looking at. One thing about the Bucks, the reason why I'm also fading them here is they're coming off an OT game, a big OT game against the Celtics. They ended up winning that game. So far this season, they've played 3 games following OT games, and they're only 1-2 against the spread here. But the thing that is most notable are the losses. They lost outright twice in after OT games. They lost to the Spurs and the Hornets, 2 teams that you shouldn't be losing against. And both of those losses came after OT wins. So I can see, I don't know if the Bulls are going to win this game outright, but I can see the Bucks struggling offensively here. The way that I could look at it would be the Bulls on the spread, or maybe the Bucks team total under.
DeMar DeRozan officially ruled out with that quad injury. And if you are backing the Bulls, you need one more stat to make you feel good about it. They are 7th defensive rating in the NBA. For as bad as they've been offensively, 11th in the East. There's one fun stat for you. Tony Mejia, how do you approach this one? Bucks at Bulls, Bucks minus 7.5.
I mean, look, I can't knock anything that Ronald just said simply because we've got one team that's won 11 consecutive games, 13 of 14, and we've got another team that is losers of 5 straight without their best player tonight. And the spread is probably what it should be if DeRozan was playing. So potentially there's a tell there in terms of what we have. No Chris Middleton, which is a big deal because Middleton has been really good of late. They're playing him off the bench with a minutes restriction, but he looks like Chris Middleton, and that's been the difference in why Milwaukee has actually been really good of late. Just making big plays down the stretch. Has covered a couple of spreads by himself. That I've been on, so thanks to Chris. In terms of just being, the third of that big three with Drew Holiday and Giannis, Middleton's a big deal, and so you take him out of the equation. Still no Jay Crowder. He's working his way back. I don't know what the deal is, considering he's been working at LA Fitness and whatever he has been doing to get himself into shape while he's been idle with the Phoenix Suns, but not ready to come back yet. So, I mean, I think the theme that we alluded to earlier today about this being one of those days where you kind of want to take off. It applies here. I think the Bucks are going to have Jay Crowder and Chris Middleton in that finishing lineup once we hit March, and they will not have either one of those players today. So I will pass.
One thing I've looked at is how fantastic Giannis has been, averaging over 37 points per game since his return, 13 rebounds, nearly 7 assists. Is there any part of me that wants to back his player points and assists? They're at 40.5 right now. I expect him to come out here, even though the All-Star is on people's mind. I could see Giannis going over on that. Dwayne, what's your approach for this one? Any leans you have here tonight?
I mean, I don't really like any of these games today, given that we're right in front of the All-Star break here. But and I hate being as square as a Rubik's cube with my plays and even my leans for the show. But I can't back a Bulls team on an 0-5 straight up an ATS run. I'm not somebody that likes to buck streaks, and I can't step in front of this Bucks team right now either. I mean, not only have they reeled off 11 straight wins, and Ronald, I believe, mentioned it, they've got double revenge motivation here. They got upset by the Bulls in Milwaukee in late November and in late December. And I'm not convinced that Chicago may not mail this one in. I mean, they just played on the road in Indiana last night, lost for the 5th straight time. And as a home dog playing without rest against other quality Eastern Conference opponents like Philly and Cleveland, the Bulls went 0-3 straight up and 0-2-1 ATS. And the average line for those games was only Bulls +7, but they lost those 3 games by an average of 12.7 points per game. So this is a spot they've struggled in. Factor in the current 5-game skid, the All-Star break starting tomorrow. And I can see the Bulls maybe packing it in early and getting boat raced here. I know Chris Middleton's been ruled out. The Bucks have really been on the upswing offensively since Middleton's return. Since he came back on January 23rd, they were averaging 49.6% shooting and 125.3 points per game. When prior to that, they were averaging just 45.6% shooting and 112.4 points per game. So it's no surprise to me that this line has dipped with the Middleton news. I mean, I saw it as high as Bucks -8.5 at one point today. Last I checked, it was down to -7.5. With the Middleton news. But the fact that bets are coming in on the Bulls now, that just makes me want to take the Bucks even more. I'm a contrarian, and I love going against the grain. And we see it all the time in the NBA these days. A star sits out and the team steps up. And I'm sure the Milwaukee players who are on the floor tonight are going to want some payback for those earlier 2 losses to Chicago. So I doubt this is going to end up in my pocket. But I mean, I guess if for a lean for the show, I got to take the Bucks. I'd rather lose with them than lose with the Bulls here.
I'm right there with you. Not to mention, Milwaukee has been the second best team at covering the spread this season. Granted, the Bulls have won, as you mentioned, the 2 games earlier this season. Let's move on to our next game on the slate. For our final 3 before the All-Star break, we have the Washington Wizards at the Minnesota Timberwolves. Tip-off at 8:10 p.m. Eastern. Timberwolves, you can find them anywhere from a 2.5, 3-point favorite. The total's at 235. The Timberwolves, to me, are an extremely difficult team to bet on because they'll win against teams that are really good and you don't necessarily expect them to win, and then they'll blow it to teams like the Rockets and the Magic. Tony, we'll come to you first. I find myself shying away from this one, but if there's one angle here, and I've heard others say this, is Mike Conley over his assists. He's been a good facilitator, and he's hit over 6.5 assists 8 of his last 10 games. Any value you're finding in this one tonight?
Well, I mean, for starters, we have the over is 6-0 in the last 6 Minnesota Timberwolves games. So that is one place to start, I guess, if you want to get involved. And then they come off a victory over the Mavericks, which is impressive considering Dallas has been playing well since acquiring Kyrie Irving, and now they have Kyrie and Luka Doncic paired together. You've got Rudy Gobert and Kyle Anderson have been on the injury report as questionable for days now, like multiple days, and they've been playing. So I think both of those guys will play. But why is this line so short? I think that's my reservation. You've got a team playing at home with a rest advantage. They haven't played since the 13th, whereas Washington is playing their third game in 4 nights. I'm really not sure why this line is where it is. I would have made it 5.5. So from that standpoint, you might want to, proceed with caution. But the bottom line is, it's clear that Minnesota has the edges in terms of guys that are going to play and rest advantage. So, and they're the better team here. Washington, for what they've done in terms of over the last month plus, yes, they have been decent, but they've blown a lot of leads as well. So
Right.
this is not a team I would trust, and I would trust Minnesota over Washington, especially at home.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, we look at this injury report, unless there's something that we don't know, Anderson and Gobert on it as questionable, but doesn't really mean much. Town's still not playing. Dwayne, Minnesota has the 4th best shooting percentage, but when it comes to defensive shooting rebounds, the Wizards are 5th in the NBA. If there is an argument here for Washington, maybe that's the approach, but how are you looking at this one tonight that will take place in Minnesota?
Well, these two met late December in D.C., and Minnesota was a 1-point road favorite. Put up a ton of points. Washington won 142 to 127. Both teams shot extremely well, over 50% from the field. The difference in that game was the 3-point shooting. Minnesota was only 7 out of 27, 26%. Washington was 15 out of 31 for 48.4%. So given how many points they scored and how far over the total they went, it's no surprise to me that we're seeing a total in the mid-30s this time, as opposed to the upper 220s last time. I'm a huge SDQL database user. Ronald and I were talking before we went on the air, especially when it comes to my NBA handicapping. I'm a situational handicapper in the NBA, and there's seemingly no limit to the different situations you can research to see how these teams perform in various scenarios. For me, I found too much conflicting data on both sides here, so I can't really give a lean on one side or the other. So I dug into the total, and looking at the Wizards, they're on the road here against a non-conference opponent, and they're coming off a road win in Portland. The under is 3-0-1 this season when Washington plays a non-conference road game when coming off a road win, and they stayed under by an average of 11.1 points per game. And just a quick FYI, I'm not concerned with sample size. I'm more concerned with current season data and data that has a large margin of victory, like the 11.1 points I just mentioned in that last scenario. Then I look at Minnesota. This is their first home game off of 4 road games. The under is 2-0 this season when Minnesota's a home favorite off 3 or more road games. Now, normally 2 games doesn't catch my eye, but in this case it did because both games stayed under by double digits and for an average of 13.5 points per game. We also have a league-wide situational angle that applies here, and that tells us to play the under when the total is 220 or more, and one team has scored 125 points or more in 2 straight games. That would be Washington, while their opponent has had 2 straight games where a total of 235 or more were scored. That would be Minnesota. So it looks like a case of what goes up must come down here, and it holds true here, as over the last 5 seasons, this league-wide angle telling us to bet the under has gone 33-11, 75% to the under. So my lean for this game is going to be on the under.
The under's the trend here, Dwayne. The under has hit in 5 of the Wizards' last 7 games on a day of rest. On top of that, Minnesota has an under record of 18-14 at home. Washington leans under on the road with 18, 12, and 1 record here. I'm all about the under. Ronald Kabang, are you going to eye this one from a total perspective, from a side perspective? We're talking Wizards, Timberwolves.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, for the most part, it's going to be on the side here. I mean, I like what Dwayne mentioned with the SDQL there, as far as like team trends versus league wide trends. But the thing with team trends is you could always find support on both sides, right? Like he mentioned, there's a lot of conflicting trends on the side perspective, and I also saw some conflicting ones on the total there because he mentioned a lot of under stuff, but I saw a lot of over things. But I think one thing to mention when you do use things like SDQL and other trends and angles like that is how you combine everything together and kind of you're just I guess you can put it in like a recipe, right? Like which way do you want to go as far as all the trends going in which in specific directions. For me, it's not only the trends, but it's also just more recent form and situational. Wizards, they've been playing pretty well, covered three of their last four, and they won three of the last four as well. But this is their third straight road game, and they're also their third game in 4 nights. So they're going to be less rested than this Wolves team, who's coming off a win over the Mavericks on Monday. So they have extended rest there. I know they have gone over in six straight themselves on their side. The Wizards, the Wizards won that first matchup, like Dwayne mentioned as well. The Timberwolves, they're one of the teams this season that's actually have been doing well in revenge situations. 12-4 straight up, 11-5 against the spread. Also 10-6 to the over in those in season revenge games. If you include that they're at home, they're actually 7-1 straight up. 6-2 against the spread, averaging 121.1 points per game, allowing 112.6. If you do one more thing and add to these revenge angles at home that they're favored, they're actually 5-0 to the over in that spot, averaging 125.6, allowing 116. On the Wizard side, non-conference road dogs of five or less, they have not won a situation. They have not won a game in that situation. 0-4 straight up, 1-3 against the spread. So for me, there's some other trends as well as far as like teams that they've already beat. Wizards against teams they already beat this season, the opposite of the revenge angle. 5-6 straight up, 5-6 against the spread, but 8-2-1 to the over in those spots there. And if you're looking at if they're on the road, they're allowing 119 per game to their opponents, 4-1-1 to the over in those games there. A lot of things to me pointing towards the Wolves. Also, a team total Wolves over. I know there's some trends here that was looking towards the over, but Dwayne mentioned some great ones with the under. For the most part, I think it's the Wolves side that will be kind of pushing to this over spot. So I would more focus just on their team total, what I think they're going to be able to do, and a lot of the trends that I was looking at is saying between the 121, 126 range is where they're going to end up scoring. Not to mention the Wizards' last 5 games, bottom 10 in defensive rating, the Wolves top 10 in offensive rating. So that's the way that I would go. Wolves and maybe their team total over would be the leans.
Wizards Timberwolves tip off 8:10 p.m. Eastern. Reminder, they're both coming off a win. 6-4 their last 10. Could be an interesting matchup here. Let's get into our last game on the slate for Thursday night before the All-Star break. That is the LA Clippers at Phoenix Suns. This one's gone back and forth. Right now, the Clippers are -1. The total's at 221.5. Tip off at 10 p.m. Eastern. I believe our graphic actually says +1 Clippers, but just as of like the last 30 minutes, that shifted. Now, here's my approach here. It looks to me like we're going to see Kawhi, we're going to see Paul George, yet their time might be limited. I haven't noticed that too much. And when Kawhi has been playing, the 9 of their last 11 games they've won when Kawhi's been active. Let's start with you, Tony Mejia. How do you approach this one? It's been back and forth. I try to find value on the Clippers whenever they were in plus money for the money line.
Well, yeah, I mean, this is a fun one to send us out till the break, just because these are two of the Western Conference's top contenders. But you mentioned it. I mean, we don't have Kawhi and Paul George playing their full allotment of minutes, and no Norman Powell tonight, and he's been really an excellent presence off the bench. So I will save my lean for my best bet segment, so I'm not redundant. But let's break down just the actual game, because my bet is on the total. This is a Clippers team that just comes off a victory over Golden State. I think that they have, are one of the teams that are taking this week seriously, because they are a group that at this point is one of those squads that you know what you're getting from them. This is the team that they've assembled. They made some decisions around the trade deadline. Doesn't look like the Russell Westbrook thing is going to happen. We'll see. That could be the other domino to drop. But these are your LA Clippers. And then as far as the Phoenix Suns, obviously they are still waiting on Kevin Durant to be healthy enough to play. So from that standpoint, it's advantage Clippers. Big win over the Warriors the other night. They played the Mavericks and Bucks on their homestand, and now this is the 1-1 off on the road in Phoenix before the break, and then get back started up after the break against the Sacramento Kings. So I still think the LA Clippers have an opportunity to win the NBA championship this season. We'll just have to see how things break down. But as far as tonight goes, I kind of lean their way.
By the way, we're back to Phoenix as favorites. This shifted again. So our producer, Robert, was right. Suns are a 1-point favorite. Brian, I'm sorry, I keep saying Brian, Dwayne, when we look at this game, totals at 221.5. We know Tony's going to break it down here. To me, I find it hard to lean with the over. Durant's not playing. I think the Suns team has been severely impacted by the way that they've had to play without Bridges, trading him away. Obviously, you expect when Durant's out there for that to change, but just doesn't seem like this Phoenix team can click as well as they had beforehand. What is your approach this one?
Well, I do have a lean on the total. This is actually the play I was closest to actually making today, but didn't. And then I realized a few minutes ago that I never sent this in as my best bet for the show, and Tony beat me to the punch. So I'm going to pick a different best bet for the best bet segment. But I also have to say that I think the line is telling us that LA is the play here. I mean, Phoenix beat LA twice already this season, both on the road. They were a 1-point road favorite, and then they were a 6.5-point road favorite in late December. Now they get the Clippers at home, and the line is flip-flopping back and forth between -1 and +1. Last I looked, and that's with Phoenix rolling along at 5-1 last 6. 7-2 last 9, 11-3 in their last 14. So it sure looks like the line is saying take LA here. I can't bet them because Phoenix has been money in home division games, 5-0 straight up and against the spread, winning by an average of 17.4 points per game, despite the average line being just Phoenix -4.4. So it's not just the 5-0 that keeps me off. It's that insane margin by which they've won those home division games. But as I mentioned, I'm looking at the total here, and Phoenix has been playing some damn good defense lately. They rank 8th in defensive rating over their last 8 games, so it's no surprise that the under's gone 7-1 in those 8. The under's actually 11-2 in their last 13. And then looking at the Clippers side of the equation here, there have been 2 occasions this season when LA's been on the road with the line between the threes, and they're coming off a game in which they allowed their opponent to shoot better than 50% from the field. Both of those games went under, and they both went under by double digits and with a 13-point margin. LA held those 2 opponents to an average of 100.5 points per game. So I do lean under here. I haven't bet this, and I probably won't now that I've seen the line has dipped even more. I just don't know how interested these teams will be in playing defense tonight with the All-Star break looming tomorrow.
I'm with you there, Dwayne. These 2 teams, bottom 10 in pace. One interesting note, though, they're tied for first in assists right now in the NBA. So, Ronald, finish us off here for this game, Suns Clippers. Do you have any leans in this one?
Yeah, I think I'm going to be with Dwayne here and look towards the under. I did see a lot of competing trends as far as the side goes. So wanted to stay away from that and really just focus in on that under. I know the Suns have been playing really good defense lately. They kept their opponents under their team total in 5 of the last 6 games. On the opposite side, I know that the Clippers have been playing, have been going over, been giving up points in the last 5 games, giving up opponents to go over their team total in 5 straight. But for the most part, when we look at these playoff atmosphere type games, I like to think that they would bring on majority of the time some strong defense. They take these games a little bit more seriously. Whether or not they're going into this All-Star break, this is a playoff atmosphere type game that we're going to be seeing tonight. I know some of the key players won't be there for the Suns as far as like who they picked up during the trade deadline. KD, obviously the main guy, but they still want to get this win, in my opinion. I know the Suns will have won and covered both matchups so far this season. So I think the Clippers want to get back some revenge here. And in those revenge games, they are 5-1 to the under in those spots, a total combined score of 219.3. And we're seeing it did open up at like 224.5. So if you didn't get it at that number, it is pretty tough to grab the 221 now. But I wouldn't be able to talk anyone off of it, to be honest. And if you look on the Sun side, 5-1 to the under when they're playing their second home game in a row, facing a conference team with a winning record. So that's what I mean about playoff atmosphere type games. The defense starts to show up. Total combined score in those games 217.5. So it's still a few points under the 221 that we're seeing now. Another thing to mention too, Booker has been out for a lot of the season, and when I look at games where the Suns are the home favorites, but obviously Booker was out of some of those games. So I looked at the game specifically with Booker in as home favorites, 13-3 straight up, 10-6 against the spread. But the more important one to me was that the under here, 10-6 to the under, 4-0 to the under in those games if the total is 225 or less. So I looked at comparable totals compared to this game here, and none of those four games reached 225 combined. So I think obviously it would have been better to get the open number, but even at 221, it might still be good to go.
This is a perfect segue into our best bets section. Tony Mejia is going to start us off because he's looking at a total on this one. We'll see if he agrees or disagrees with the rest of the panel. Best bets, if you're new here at the NBA Tip-Off Show, it's simple. Rules are easy. You've got 60 seconds on the clock. You can use them however you'd like, but the rules are you got to get out in 60 seconds and you've got to give us a best bet. So Tony Mejia, let's stick on Suns Clippers. I know you have a best bet there for the total. What are you looking at? Your time starts now.
Yeah, let's stay right there. I mean, obviously you would want 224.5, but as Ronald pointed out, you can get 221, go get 221. Go knock that out. Devin Booker played in the last Suns and Clippers game. He shot 1 for 9 from 3-point range, 6 for 22 from the field. And you know who was in the Clippers starting lineup in that game? It was Moses Brown at center. Amir Coffey was in that mix. John Wall, no longer on the team. Terrence Mann and Marcus Morris Sr. So, I mean, it was one of those games where the Clippers actually punted. And the Clips have not had Kawhi Leonard in the mix at all in any of their two matchups this season against the Phoenix Suns. They lost 111-95 and 112-95. 4 of the last 5 games have been underplays. They failed to score even 100 points in those games. Most of these games go under. They are two defensive-minded teams. I think the under is the way to go. Obviously, you missed the best of the number, but 221 should still be enough. So ride the under here.
Absolutely. Right there on time. And get it right while you can, because I could see this line even shifting a little bit more before tip-off. Dwayne Bryant, you've got 60 seconds. You've got a best bet for us. What are you riding with? Your time starts now.
Well, I don't know. I didn't hear a buzzer for Tony, so if the buzzer's broken, I'm going to go a little longer. But
yeah,
that's what I'm
saying. Oh, sure.
Hey, there we go.
I'm looking again. I'm going to go. I like that Phoenix under. That was a game I was closest to actually playing. These guys almost have me talked into actually doing it. But for the best bet segment, I'll take that Washington Minnesota under. Again, the Wizards are on the road tonight. They got a non-conference opponent. They're coming off a road win in Portland. They're 3-0-1 to the under this season when they play a non-conference road game, and they're coming off a road win. Those games went under by 11.1 points per game. And on the Minnesota side, it's their first home game off 4 on the road, and they're 2-0 under in that situation this season. And both games stayed under by double digits. So by default, I guess, give me the Washington, Minnesota under.
Right on cue. There's the buzzer. 1 second left. Ronald Kabang, you have 60 seconds. Give us a best bet and let us know what you've got going on. Your time starts now.
Yeah, I'm going back to the Wolves that I talked about earlier. Like I mentioned, that revenge angle for the Wolves there. 7-1 straight up, 6-2 against the spread in revenge situations at home. Average margin there is at +9 or plus close to +9 there on the Wizards side versus non-conference opponents as road dogs of 5 or less. 0-4 straight up, 1-3 against the spread there. Pretty decent sized margin as well in those games. So for me, I'm going with the Wolves there, and I do want to take this extra time here to shout out Sports Memo, the NBA Triple Double Show. I do it every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday with Moneyline Matt. If you guys haven't been watching the show, we've been on a really good heater. The last show we had three guys in the panel. We swept the board as far as best bets. I myself on the best bets in the show hit 8 of the last 9. So we're really hot over at sportsmemo.com as far as the NBA Triple Double Show. Again, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Make sure you guys catch that moving forward.
And make sure you check all of our cappers out here on wagertalk.com, sportsmemo.com. They're giving out great bets all week long, all month long. Here, take a screenshot of our today's picks recap if you want to get in on the 3 games we've got left before the NBA All-Star. That wraps up our NBA Tip-Off Show. Thanks for joining us here. We'll see you next time after the All-Star break.
While the 2022-2023 football season officially ends today on Super Bowl Sunday, for many sports betting fans, college hoops in February and March is one of the most exciting times in sports. Whether you love college hoops or just want to pad your bankroll heading into March Madness, we have the perfect special. Starting today, get the rest of February with any WagerTalk or Sports Memo handicapper for only $149 each. So to finish off February for as little as $9 per day, head over to your favorite WagerTalk and or Sports Memo handicappers page and grab this limited time offer. This offer includes not only college basketball, but also any NBA, NHL, UFC, soccer, golf, and NASCAR that your favorite WagerTalk and or Sports Memo expert handicaps. No coupon is needed. The earlier you sign up, the more days you get.